Hi kids, these are the notes on theme. Some of the stuff I'm going to say is going to be familiar to you. Actually, possibly most of it's going to be familiar to you depending on how closely you've paid attention to your English teacher and or what you remember from elementary school. So here's how I define theme, which is going to be maybe similar to what your English teachers say or what you heard in elementary school, maybe not identical. A theme in a piece of writing is a message that the author is sending about something big and important, a message that the author is sending about life or about the world or about society or about people, about relationships, about human nature, or some other big idea. It's something the author believes is important enough for them to write this piece of writing, and they want people to know it. I also say the theme is a part of the iceberg that's under the water. And to make this make sense, open a new tab and search iceberg and then look at images. What you'll see is the most common picture you see on the internet of icebergs is a picture of an iceberg from the side. I don't think most of those are actual photos. I think a lot of them are photoshopped, but whatever. Why is this the most common photo? Because it's the coolest picture of an iceberg, because most of an iceberg is actually underwater. This is like a cool science factoid that some of you may already know. Which kind of makes sense if you think about like a glass of ice water sitting on your counter in your kitchen. The ice cubes don't sit on top of the water, right? They're mostly submerged in it. Most of an iceberg is submerged, which is a problem if you're like the Titanic, right? Trying to go across the ocean. There's all this iceberg underneath it you can't see. Okay, so why am I saying that a theme is like the part of an iceberg that's under the water? Here's why. So you're reading your piece of literature, your poem, your story, your play. The words on the page and the actual events that are happening is stuff you can see and understand. When we did the exercise of putting our poem in our own words, the literal things happening in your poem, a dog falling down a well, a girl watching her father swim, that's the part of the iceberg you can see. A guy riding a horse home and then stopping and staring at the woods. But then there's this huge part that you can't see on the page. It's way bigger than the stuff that's on the page, meaning it's way more important. And that is the theme, the message of the writing, the reason the author wrote. In the poem I use frequently as an example, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, Robert Frost didn't sit down to write that poem because he was thinking, I really need to tell the world about the time I was on a horse and then I got off it and then got back on again, right? That's not why he wrote it. He wrote it because he really needed to tell the world the theme, the message behind the words. That's what he wanted to get down on paper for everybody to hear. So if you're reading a story, the theme is not the plot. It's not plot events, right? The things that happen to the main character and the things the main character does and the things that happen to the other characters and the things they do, none of that is a theme. And in a poem, the theme is not the events in the poem or the images that are described. The theme isn't what a piece of writing is about. Here's something English teachers sometimes say: the theme is what it's really, really about. So sometimes, especially in elementary school, I think you were allowed to talk about theme as a single word. And although your elementary school teacher might not have told you that this word was an abstract noun, it was always an abstract noun. So for example, maybe you wrote an essay saying the theme of this book is friendship, or the theme of this book is determination, right? In my class, and sometimes in your other English classes, a theme has to be a complete sentence. So your theme can't just be friendship, it has to be, what about friendship? What is the author saying about it? The theme can't be determination. It has to be, what about determination? What is the author saying about determination? Now, it has to be based on an abstract noun. That's those two blanks, abstract noun. Or two, could be based on two abstract nouns, but it has to be a full sentence. So a full sentence based on the abstract noun friendship would be, friendship is the most important thing in life. Or it could be something really different. Sometimes friendship can cause people pain. Those are two different complete sentences based on an abstract noun. You could have a theme sentence based on two abstract nouns, like friendship and responsibility. Maybe that theme is maintaining a good friendship sometimes requires responsibility. That could be a theme also. If you're not sure how to start your theme, a lot of times a theme sentence will start like one of these. Sometimes in life, da 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 da. Or sometimes in life, friendship, blah blah blah. Or in society, determination, da 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 da. Some big grand statement. And occasionally you're reading something and you get the feeling that the author isn't really taking a position one way or the other. The author's sort of throwing it out there and leaving it to the reader to decide which thing is true. So maybe you'll phrase your theme as a question. In that case, it still has to have an abstract noun in it. Your theme could be, can people da 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 friendship? Or is there ever blah 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 something about friendship? So examples of these themes are like, can people ever maintain friendships without fighting? Or is there ever a friendship that is worth sacrificing everything for? These are like big life questions based on an abstract noun. Another thing to know about theme is theme has to be universal. When I say universal, I mean all people in all times and all places can relate to it. So in my poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, not everybody everywhere can relate to riding a horse home at night and then getting off the horse and staring at the snowy woods. Like if you went and read that poem to somebody who lived their whole life in like the hot burning desert, they would be like, I don't get it. And if you went and read that poem to somebody 3,000 years from now living on Mars, they'd be like, what's a horse? But the message that's underneath the surface, which in Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, I would suggest is sometimes in life things get so difficult that you just want to lay down and die, but in the end you get back up and keep going because you have responsibilities. That theme is universal. Everybody throughout all of human history can relate to that. If you went up to somebody on the street in ancient Rome and said, hey, do you think it's true that sometimes life is so hard you just want to quit, but then you decide you have to keep going because you have responsibilities? The ancient Roman would be like, yes. And if you went to somebody living on Mars like 3,000 years ago and you asked them that same question, they would say, of course, right? That's one of the ways you know you have a theme, is it's something that all humans everywhere understand. They don't ever necessarily have to agree with it. Like the ancient Roman might say, that is not true. I think this instead. But at least they would understand it. Remember that I've been saying this whole quarter that things that we consider to be literature usually have these four qualities, right? One of those is that literature generally has a deeper meaning. This whole time when I was saying deeper meaning, that's what I was talking about was theme. Another way to recognize theme is a theme sounds like something a grandma might say. So not your grandma personally, but a grandma. If you can imagine a grandma somewhere saying it, that's probably a theme. So if I'm going to think about my poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, no grandma is ever going to say, you know, honey, in life I've learned that sometimes I just want to stop my horse on the path and look at the snowy woods. No, that's crazy, right? You'd be like, Grandma, are you feeling okay? That's cuckoo. But a grandma could totally say, honey, sometimes in life things are difficult and you want to quit, but you have to keep going. Like that is something a grandma would say. Next bullet, when you are reading literature, the theme is hinted. Hinted, H-I-N-T-E-D. I'm spelling it because sometimes people think I'm saying hidden. The theme is hinted. The author hints it to you, but the theme is rarely said directly. So almost never in good writing does the author come out at the end of the piece and say, and here is my message for all of you to know. Like that's not a thing, right? The author hints the theme. And that's part of what makes literature enjoyable to read because you're a smart reader, right? You're becoming a grown-up. And when you're reading a piece of excellent writing and you figure the theme out on your own, you infer the theme on your own, it gives you a feeling of satisfaction. Like, yeah, I get the message. I figured it out with my smart brain. And it makes it feel more special to you. A theme is not a definition. So I'm just think about this in a minute when you start coming up with a theme from your own poem. If your theme sounds like a literal definition of a word, joy makes people happy. Um, that's not a theme. That's just like if you look up joy, it's going to be something about like a feeling of happiness, right? And also, a theme should be something that not every single person on earth agrees with. So, like, it shouldn't be suffering is bad. Everybody thinks suffering is, mostly everybody, right? It shouldn't be like enslaved people should be free. That's something, almost nobody's going to disagree with that. But, so here are things that could be themes. Joy can lead to inspiration. That's an opinion. Not everybody thinks that's true, but it's, something many people might believe, and maybe your author believes it. Enslaved people use hope to keep going. Not everybody thinks that's true, but it sounds like something a lot of people might believe. That could be a theme. So the way you spot a theme in a poem, and let me just tell you right now that I'm going to give you a worksheet that like sort of walks you through these steps that will bring you to a theme if you can't come up with it on your own. But here's the simple 2-step method to come up with it on your own. First, come up with an abstract noun that's very important in the story or poem. Doesn't have to be written on the page, but it's just something you feel is a really strong emotion or a strong idea. And then you ask yourself, what does my author believe about this? Or what does my author wonder about this? And then the answer to that question is your theme. If you feel like your poem is really about love, and you ask yourself, what does my author believe about love? Maybe the answer is true love conquers all. Could also be something really dark, like, love can destroy people. Could also be the theme of a piece of writing. If I'm doing stopping by woods on a snowy evening, I feel like I might say to myself, this is really a poem about hard times. That's 2 words, right? But it's an abstract concept, so I'm going to count it as an abstract noun. And if I ask myself, well, what does Robert Frost believe about hard times? My answer might be, he thinks hard times sometimes will make a person want to just quit, but then they keep going again. That's what Robert Frost believes is true. And that is the theme of my poem. If you're wondering why I'm saying a theme instead of the theme, it's because 5 different people might come up with 5 slightly different themes for a poem. Maybe somebody reading Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, instead of thinking it's about hard times, thinks it's about determination, or thinks it's about responsibility, or thinks it's about sadness. I would say all of those are in the poem. That doesn't mean that any theme is in the poem. It just means there are a few different possibilities. So I'm not going to ask you to find the theme in your poem. I'm going to ask you to find one of the main things your author is saying is true. All right. That's it. Have a good one.